Maria Rios here, frustrated filmmaker and host of Make the Movie Already podcast. This is a podcast for you otherwise busy people who have a creative passion project that you want to complete, that you need to complete, but you're stuck. You're overwhelmed, you may be burned out even, you're navigating between work, home, everything in between, you're tired, and you just can't find the time. But you've got something to share with the world, and you're losing sleep over it. If this sounds like you, stay with me. Moving forward, my plan is to motivate us by doing the work we need to do to get unstuck. So the focus will be to make measurable progress at the pace that makes sense to us to build the consistency we need to get the project done. And what does that look like? So we'll be talking about accountability, setting reasonable and measurable goals, reflection, but also wellness. So let's talk wellness for a second. So when you're stuck on a project and you're already stressed and you're already unfocused, it can be kind of counterproductive to just keep pressing, to keep hustling. Because as a creative, it's really important, I think, and I've found to come from a place more of relaxation, more of joy, more of feeling like I have the wherewithal internally to be able to generate new ideas and to feel good about them, to articulate them. And if I'm stressed, if I'm not eating well, if I'm not sleeping right, things don't make sense. And particularly with filmmaking, that can be pretty evident if you haven't slept for a week, if you haven't slept well, and then you try and do an edit on top of everything you have to do, in life and in the world. And then you think, you've stayed up until midnight and you think you've done this edit and it's beautiful and it's perfect. And you give it a minute, you revisit it, and the whole thing didn't make any sense, or there's a lot of technical flaws that you really couldn't have seen unless you had just more capacity, more breathing room, more rest to get that project done. And let's not forget that I'm a filmmaker, a new one, a frustrated one at that. So moving forward, my project will be the focus of this podcast, but filmmaking is a complex creative project. I think this would be interesting for people who are doing similar things. So keep that in mind. So now that you have an idea of where I'm going with this, let me tell you more about who I am, why I'm doing this, and what you can expect moving forward. First of all, I'm a busy full-time communications professional, and I've got a full life outside of that. So we've established that I'm busy, which I'm sure is something you can relate to. In addition to that, I decided to take filmmaking courses at the local community college. For me, that would be Austin Community College here in Texas. Great program, very excited to be there. And I discovered that indeed I love filmmaking, documentary filmmaking in particular. Now, I got introduced to documentary filmmaking back in graduate school way back when. And so I'm thrilled to have the opportunity to be able to learn the skills that I need to make documentary films after hours. I'm actually even more thrilled to have the support of my employers in doing this. And in fact, I'm looking forward to being able to use some of the skills that I've learned at my place of work. So it's been a value add for them. It's been a benefit for everybody. So I'm really excited about that. But one thing I started to notice is that pretty early on, I started to feel overwhelmed. In fact, after my first class, when I truly understood what it would take to make a film, it's like, how am I going to do this? How am I going to do this? Class by class, right? With each class, learn a little bit more about the process and eventually I'll get to the point that I'll be able to put it all together in the form of a finished film. Now, I will say that because my interest is documentary in particular, that's posed a little bit of a challenge for me, since the filmmaking courses that I've been able to take, or most of them, have had an emphasis on making narrative films. But still, I've learned how to run a camera, I've learned how to run audio and edit something together, etc. So I've got the building blocks. Since I started this journey in 2017, I believe it was, I've been at it for about 6 years. I've taken the time to kind of think about how much time I've actually spent doing this work. A reasonable figure is about 10 hours a week since 2017, which ends up being about 3,120 hours. Now, here's where the frustrating filmmaker part comes in. I don't have a finished film. It's killing me. I really don't have a finished film. But I am more than hanging in there. Like I said, I love the process and I'm committed to the process, but something's not working the way that I need it to. And so I've taken some time to figure out what that is. What's not working for me? What's not working for me? Let me rephrase. What's the trouble is more accurate. What's my problem? To be clear, I believe I have enough skills to finish a project, a documentary project. Even if I feel like I've been retrofitting my education and I have some education gaps, and, in an ideal world, I'd like to be able to workshop every, nonfiction filmmaking problem that I have, but I simply don't have the time or the resources there, so I just kind of have to make do with what I have, and I have quite a bit. What's troubled me quite a bit is I really haven't been able to give my full attention to the documentary project, or the project that I'd like most to complete or make progress on. And despite having the technical skills to complete a film, even a documentary film, I don't quite think I have what I need to make a film that's authentic to how I want to tell the story. That said, I know that I haven't gotten to where I need to be on this particular project. It's yielded a set of challenges that I know and can substantiate that I need to dig a little deeper within myself and within my process, so that I can tell a story that I feel is authentic to my aesthetic point of view and not just another finished project. I can say this because I actually have finished other projects, either through coursework or through other work that I've completed unrelated to the one that's bugging me. In looking back to try and figure out what's the trouble, I've done something that I don't recommend that you do, but I've kind of compared myself to others. This is a dangerous thing in the arts, I think. But I've compared my situation with others in my cohort or cohorts, since I've been taking classes for quite a while. And one thing that makes me different is that, I really haven't spent enough time working on my project. It's a logistical challenge that's tougher for me, because unlike most of the folks that I know that have been successful either in completing their projects or kind of moving forward more quickly in their careers, is simply they're not competing with a full-time job. That makes a big, huge difference. But at the end of the day, when I think about it, how cool would it be to spend X amount of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a whole weekend, consecutive weekend, really being able to focus on putting all the pieces of what I've learned together. My classmates that have been able to go on to, take the 4 hours of filmmaking classes a week or however many, spend their weeks doing this, get an internship doing this. I've seen a lot of success stories. But then that gets me to thinking, could it be that maybe my goal is unrealistic? Could it be that I'm kind of being too hard on myself and I have to really allow myself the space to say this is going to take me a little longer than most? It also gives me the opportunity to say, well, maybe there's something I can do that's a little bit different so that I can use the time that I have to set me on the path to getting my own voice and finishing my project in a way that I feel I have some integrity about. I guess this brings me to, how am I going to solve this problem? How am I going to get to the bottom of my frustrations? How am I going to be more productive amidst these challenges? How am I going to get the work done? Well, I'm going to do what anyone else would do. I'm going to start a podcast about it, right? Okay, I know that's counterintuitive, but hear me out. Let me say first that my experience up until now, as challenging as it has been greatly rewarding. It's been positive. Learning how to make films, learning how to be part of a team has just been an uplifting experience for me, actually. One that leaves me very energized, believe it or not. I come in tired, but I leave full of hope and possibility. I leave full of ideas. I know that this is my medium and I'm willing to fight for it. So again, right? Why the podcast? Even though I may be feeling energized by doing what I'm doing, I've well established that, I'm tired and I don't have enough time, and I'm questioning the feasibility of things. And why add something else to the list? Well, because I've realized actually that this is part of the practice that will make my nonfiction film a reality. So one of the challenges that I've had is I've had trouble with the storytelling, or I've had some barriers because I haven't felt like I've been able to put all the pieces together. So this podcast actually gives me the opportunity to do that over time in a way that's accessible to me according to my schedule, in a way that allows me to workshop my project, but also in a way that allows me to give back, which is another huge reason that I love filmmaking as a practice. That wherever I've turned, everyone has been so helpful. I've gotten a sense of community where over the years, as much as I've been able to learn, I haven't felt like I've had the time to be able to give back to those folks that have helped me. And so by doing this, I think having these conversations, this could put something out into the world that could be a resource to others, which is from my heart of hearts something that I really want to do. Now that you know a little bit more about me and why I'm doing this podcast, what can you expect moving forward? Quite simply, the goal of this is for us to get to a place in our projects that we can feel good about. Notice I did say we. This really is an invitation for you to join me on my journey to make myself accountable as I quite frankly start over with my project. All right, so in real terms, what can you expect? Discussion for one, unearthing the specific challenges we have as passionate creators with limited time. We'll be identifying what exactly is the source of our frustration. Sometimes it's not always obvious. So, what's the real barrier? Is it fear? Is it not being able to pay the bills? And this is particularly the case if you're completing your project because you want to transition to a creative career, right? So what exactly is the source of frustration? We'll come away with a plan, set of goals with accountability built in. So for me, it's this podcast, right? I've put even more skin in the game by doing this. So if I can do it, you can too. Practical tips and tools, yes. Resources on how to set ourselves up for success, right? And of course, the opportunity for feedback. If you'd like your questions discussed, if you have projects you're working on, I'd love to hear about them. So your feedback is welcome. The opportunity for feedback will be important. And actually very much welcome your questions or comments, and we'd be happy to discuss them here on this platform. So reach out to me on the social media indicated, and we'll get that started soon. And speaking of feedback, send me your initial thoughts. Let me know what you think. If you have any initial suggestions, if I need to be clearer about something, just reach out. And hey, just FYI, if you didn't know already, this is my first podcast, so bear with me. As you can probably hear, I've got a little bit of learning to do here, but hang in there with me. I think this will actually be a really good thing for all of us who decide to join us here. And I say us because what I'm really hoping to do is, kind of establish some sort of community here, find a way to help each other, right? This is what it's all about. We're creators, and as filmmakers in particular, we have a tendency to do that already. So I'm looking forward to seeing what the future has for us all. So stay tuned for the next episode. I plan on dropping these every Monday at 7:30 a.m. because that's what my schedule allows. So look out for them. Until then, take care. Thank you for bearing with me, and I'm super excited, and I'm looking forward to seeing you soon. Bye-bye.